one, and we are live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and I'm joined by Seth Wintrop on the first special occasion. It's a dream come true, everyone, for Seth right now. Seth has been asking for a long time to do a podcast live from one of the vehicle that we are reviewing, but it never works out because you have to have the internet working fine. You have to have all the conditions for it. You have to have the power inside the vehicle, but right now you are in the Rivian R1T and everything lined up perfectly. So here we are, Seth. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Everything lined up perfectly except the weather. It's
No.
pouring in New York, but Rivian gave us a R1T for the weekend. I've got lots of plans for it. Going to take it all over the place. My wife has already told me that we're going to go pick up some shrubbery. We're going to do all kinds of testing. I've already driven all over my yard, so it'll be fun. But what's kind of nice is that we can answer any questions. I know this is very impromptu, but if anybody has any questions that I can look directly at this vehicle and answer about that Rivian R1T, that would be fantastic to ask. And yeah, it
Yeah, this
so
is
far
not
we
movie magic. You're literally
yeah.
in the car right now, so we can answer everything. Um, but otherwise, we'll start the show while your question comes in. Just a quick note to thank Recurrent Auto for sponsoring this episode of the Electrek Podcast. You can check the battery before buying a used EV and monitor your battery performance with monthly insight using Recurrent's free battery reports for EV owners. We're gonna have a little bit more to say about them later on the show. Like Seth said, you can send in your questions right now through YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you're listening live, and we're going to get to them. We have the first one, Vicente Perez asking Seth, how is the finish compared to Tesla? So that's a good question because, of course, Seth is a longtime Tesla owner. How do you compare it, the Rivian R1T?
So I think it's really nice. For me, obviously, interior subjective. I really like this. The wood. You have the shiny brass stuff going on here. I don't know if it's brass. I would say the screen is very similar to the Tesla screen. It's obviously a little shorter, but fantastic clarity. I haven't driven it at night yet, but I think it's going to be fine. I really love the wood. It's a lot more busy than a Tesla. So, if you're a person that likes minimalist stuff, this isn't going to be your vehicle. But or Tesla is probably going to be your only choice. But
Well,
overall,
it's not as busy either as like a German luxury vehicles. Like it's not like
right?
it's a healthy medium, I would say.
Yeah, or a Cadillac or whatever. There's no buttons besides on the steering wheel. So it's in a lot of ways it's similar to a Tesla, but um, it's not. It's a little bit more designy, and the fit and finish, how tight is it? It's phenomenal. I mean, this is a press vehicle, so they're probably gonna check it over and make sure that they don't give us one that's got a big gash in it or
Mhm.
something. But the stitching is tight. Everything feels really solid. I've had it for about 4 hours now, and I haven't found one major flaw. I mean, you do see some little things that you would see on any car from any manufacturer. It's like kind of an Alcantara uh, headliner, I guess. Um, Overall, super impressed. I don't think I've been in a car this cool, for me, for a while. Maybe the Porsche was probably a little bit cooler, but this is fantastic.
So that was the next question to from Tyler Donahoe. Um,
Mhm.
about are there any physical dials, button, and controls? So you said no, other than from the steering wheel.
Yeah,
And
so the steering wheel is where most of the stuff is. You've got the dials here. This is the volume, and the left side is music. So you got next track, but there's not as much lettering or as a typical you know car steering wheel. And then you've got the same thing on the other side. And then you've got stalks, which if you're driving a plaid Tesla, you may miss. But the left stalk is kind of to do with the windshield wiping stuff and lights. and the right stalk is the forward, drive, park, and then cruise control is double tap down. So
But that brings in another important question though, because like if you're going that way, you're going no physical buttons and you're going mostly through screens and like you said, there's the steering wheel. Then it brings up like how good is your UI, because you have to have a good UI if you're not relying on physical buttons, and that's where Tesla has been like leading the competition, really focusing everything on the user interface so that you don't miss the buttons. How is Rivian doing on that front so far, you think?
so I would say good, but not great there. So the UI for like air conditioning is this right here,
Hmm.
and you've got
Can
you
you
can
can
kind
you
of
can you remove me from the screen? Go full screen. Like,
let's
I
see.
don't need to be on the screen right now. Love looking at myself, but
So you can kind of see you've got
hmm.
like all these heating things. You've got the heated steering wheel, um, heated seats. You have auto for the air conditioning. I don't want to turn that on, otherwise it's going to get loud in here.
Yeah. Let's go.
But as far as climate, you've got I would say a very good user interface. Just it takes a few minutes to get used to it, to know where all the stuff is. And for instance, on my way up here, the windshield started fogging up, and it wasn't immediately obvious how I deal with that.
Hmm.
That's how you do it, defog. But I was messing around in this whole thing, so and then turning everything off is the next
At
step.
least that's working. We know it's working.
Yeah,
No, I mean we do see some similarities for sure with the way Tesla set things up,
absolutely.
and it's no accident because Rivian did hire Tesla's lead UI interface designer early on in the process of making the R1T and R1S.
Yeah, and I will say, so we reviewed this. We had a trip to Colorado,
Mm.
and one of the issues was the screen. Like when you were on the navigation screen, things were a little slow. Now things have really sped up. Like I don't know if you can tell, but it's pretty good tracking with the UI and the touch.
Mm.
I don't know if I would put the music over here on the right. I think it would be kind of nice to have that over here, and then you can look over there. But maybe that's for the passenger to deal with, or maybe something we can mess around with later.
Because you do get the navigation too on the instrument cluster, right?
Yeah, so you have the cluster right there, and yes, the navigation is there. I will say, coming out of Brooklyn, it gave me a really wonky way to get home,
Hmm.
and I actually ended up using Google Maps and saved myself probably about 20 minutes. So not perfect yet, but
Google
improving.
Maps on your phone, because
Yeah.
there's no, is there Apple CarPlay on this? No, huh?
No, there's no CarPlay. There's no Android Auto, which is very controversial. You can do most of the stuff like play music from your phone. So that's 90% of what most people use their
Mm.
phone for. But the maps, you're going with Rivian's maps, which are their own. They're rolling their own. They're using I think a company called Mapbox for the actual like the tiles.
Mm.
But my understanding is they want to map the world with their cars, and then kind of use that data to they're rolling their own basically.
Mm. Which is ambitious, but and it makes sense long term. But there's going to be some growing pains in the meantime, probably because of it. So it's not ideal for that. But I mean, the point is though, Rivian is also bidding heavily on over-the-air software updates, and like you said, maybe even the responsiveness of the screens is already something that they apparently um, might have addressed. We have Manuel live that's asking off on one update are you on, so that might be
Yeah, so that's interesting you asked, because just last night a update came down, and apparently they didn't do it at the Rivian Auto Center. So I am on the almost latest episode, or the latest version of the software. What did I just do? See, I don't even know
Mm.
this UI yet, but there is a software update to do at some point. So I'm on the second to latest version.
That would be
Uh,
an interesting thing just to keep note of, and like maybe it can so to show people how as a software update on the Rivian and like the release notes how they look like and everything. That
oh yeah, here we go. So
mm,
close this down. Software updates. I'm on version 2022.11.2, and the update is 22.15.0. And last time I said see what's new, it didn't bring up anything. All right, here we go.
yeah.
Update details, new car wash mode. They told me about that at the thing. I don't think I'm going to watch this thing.
Mm.
It's raining. Updated tune-in design, so that's part of the music experience. Improved DC fast charging performance. So we saw some people try the new fast charging. I'm obviously going to go check it out at Electrify America when the charge level gets low. So hopefully I'll get. I think somebody got like 215 or 218 or something kilowatts. So that'll be pretty quick charging. These are big batteries though. Additional improvements to software release includes the following: traction control in muddy terrain. That'll come in handy. Low ride height and conserve drive mode as manual setting. Improved ride height level accuracy. Improved range loss consistency while vehicle is sleeping, and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing when you're early like that in the process. There's gonna be a lot more room for improvement. So I think
Yeah.
every software update is gonna include a lot of small improvement that add up to a better experience for the owner.
I also thought it was interesting that these software updates take 90 minutes.
Hmm.
That's a significant time period. That's not like going
Can
to.
you plan them overnight like you do with Tesla? Like tell them to do.
I don't think so.
Hmm.
But sometimes I do an update like while we're going out to dinner or something.
Yeah,
This one would have to be a longer dinner.
yeah. So right now, what it says on it, you can just click on it to say like do it right now. You cannot say do it later.
It just says update now,
Okay.
and if I hit that, I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening.
No,
So I
you don't
should
want it.
see. Okay, so the new update will have a new garage door opener, new exterior light settings, new automatic high beams, and a bunch of other little stuff, like a lot of little stuff, and then some ASCII art at the bottom.
So Greg Paulin asked, "Does it have double pane windows?" I guess you can check that real quick by just rolling it down.
Yeah.
It does.
I think it. Yeah, I think it does actually.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they're pretty thick, and they're. It is really quiet and really, driving up here, it was amazingly quiet ride for a truck, and like as smooth as could be. Like, it's hard to beat having so much ride height um, to dampen all the bumps. It's an advantage that SUVs have over sports sedans. So kind of in a good place there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. What we have for question right now. But I mean, Seth is gonna be in the car for the rest of the show
Yeah.
anyway. While we move on to other news items. So if you guys have any other question regarding the R1T, you can put them in the comments right now. But we're gonna move on and come back later. And obviously, Seth is gonna have next week or a week before after that a full review of the vehicle. But we're gonna stay on Rivian since we're on the subject. This week they had a big news that their incentive package for the upcoming Georgia factory has gone through. So they secured a deal to make the factory happen. It was contingent on approving an incentive package worth 1.5 billion. But as we talked about before in those deal, like those are these. It's not like Georgia is ending out $1.5 billion to Rivian. It's over years, depending on of over $5 billion in investment from Rivian, and a lot of requirements instead of jobs, which they expect to create 7,500 of them. And so yeah, these are the details of the deal. So like a $5 billion investment from Rivian, package worth 1.5, 7,500 jobs created by 2028. Uh, Pretty much double that with indirect jobs in the area. Average annual salary $56,000, and there's going to be an investment in the local community pilot payment they call it. So it funds a bunch of schools and other government run programs like the police and whatnot in the area. And Yeah, I mean, it's just this is a major project, obviously, that has been somewhat criticized by some Rivian investors because they already have the Illinois factory that needs to ramp up to at least I think the goal is over 200,000 units per year, and obviously Rivian is far from that right now, and also it needs to make that profitable, and also the Rivian is pretty far from that. So there's a lot of things that needs to happen, like them, for lack of a better word, figuring out how to make vehicle production sustainable and profitable in normal Illinois before moving to this new factory in Georgia. But the counter argument to that is obviously they are learning a ton from the deployment of the production capacity in Illinois, and they're kind of chomping at the bits to be able to apply what they learned from that to this brand new facility. And they kind of have the money to do it. Like they they raised on like $16 billion from the going public deal last year. They have a ton of cash, so they can kind of afford it, even though they're losing a ton of money right now producing those vehicles in Illinois. But they're producing more. I mean, you were just in Brooklyn to pick that car off, and you not that car, that truck, and you saw a lot of other units, right?
Yeah, there was at least 100. The guy I spoke to, I think, said close to 200 vehicles there. They were all R1Ts. There was not one R1S there, unfortunately. And they were all almost all customer vehicles. So, and the bottleneck was like they have people to deliver them, but they're getting more and more shipments every day. So the amount of shipments that are coming in, they said they had a truck kind of just waiting until a couple more cleared out. So they're actually at capacity there. They just need more people to like deliver these things, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I mean, I know, like they're probably tired of the Tesla comparison after a while, but it's interesting to see because Tesla is the only really company you can compare them to, because Rivian is going that route of owning the whole distribution system too, and they're not going through dealership and everything. So this is a problem that we've seen Tesla go through at one point once they started figuring out production, and the demand, of course, was through the roof, like it is for Rivian. Like they literally had to pull people off like the offices and everything to help with the deliveries. Like that
Yep.
has happened a lot with Tesla. So it's probably a good problem for Rivian to have, though, even though I'm sure it's resulting in some headaches for the staff and for the customers too. They're trying to pick up their vehicles, but I mean everyone is super excited at this point. So like if you're getting a delivery of a R1T, like it's exciting stuff. So you're willing to have a little bit of weight or some issues, some friction at the delivery, just to get the excitement out in your car.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of excited people there
Mm-hmm.
getting their cars. It was 10 a.m. in Brooklyn, and that is like the flagship of the East Coast. So I think there were people coming as far away from as Maryland or Pennsylvania or Massachusetts to that location to pick up their vehicles. I know they were also training people that were going to be heading to Cleveland and other places. So like kind of like all the East Coast activity is happening out of
Mm-hmm.
one place right now.
So that's like a delivery center, but they also have service there,
Yep.
and Rivian also is going with mobile services, so they can cover like a fairly large area.
Yep.
But obviously, like they need to expand their service centers and they're on their own charging network too. That's the big difference that a lot of other automakers should maybe look into. Like
For sure.
right now, it's not significant enough to be a game changer for Rivian, but long term, like if it's to be successful, like having your own charging network is a big deal. There's no doubt about it.
I agree. I mean, the number one kind of deal breaker for people who are buying electric vehicles is charging network. Like Tesla's charging network, as you experienced with your Mustang in the South,
Mhm.
like the charging network for other vehicles isn't there yet. Like it's stressful. There's a lot of uncertainty. Where Tesla's network is, anywhere in the U.S. you can pretty much find Tesla chargers. So I think Rivian's taking that into their own hands, and they're going to be in great shape. Whereas these other companies don't seem to really care.
Yeah, or not care enough to do their own network and are willing to rely on third parties, which they're getting better. But I'm on Rivian's website right now. I'm trying to see if I can. I don't see a map of live stations. I just see the upcoming station here. You cannot choose to. You can move it around, but not ask for like existing station.
Hmm.
It's a bummer. All right. Um, All right, moving on from Rivian to the F-150 Lightning from Ford. Deliveries started this week, so they officially at dealership right now, starting deliveries for obviously a limited number of vehicles, but it's really starting right now. Like with the Lightning, Seth, you were test driving it for the first time. We test rode it before, but didn't have the opportunity to drive it. They had their first media drive this week with Goff. Unfortunately, you cannot share your opinions just yet. It's under embargo. Lifting up next week, sometime next week.
Yep. I think on the 11th. The F-150 is a different type of vehicle than this. It's huge. It's like, for me, it's like a non-starter because it's so huge. But for other people, that's exactly what they want. They just want like a house on wheels, and that's what this is. Like, it's just the biggest vehicle that you can imagine being, on a road. Like parking in a parking spot is almost impossible. But like it's a fantastic vehicle, obviously, for the fact that it's EV. It's not terribly expensive. Starts at $40,000. And Ford, obviously, with their F-150 being the biggest selling car in the U.S. for like decades, they know scale. So, and I believe they've already made more F-150 pickups than Rivian has R1Ts. They just haven't even started delivering them. So
Mhm.
that scale is going to be uh, pretty obvious really soon.
Yeah, we're gonna feel it soon. Probably you're gonna start seeing them on the road. Like with the start of deliveries, they updated a few specs for the standard range. You get more horsepower, bump from 426 to 452, and that's also resulting in a higher payload capacity from 2,000 pounds to 2,235 pounds. Again, that's for the standard range battery. If you have an extended range battery version, you get your horsepower bump from 563 to 580, and still at 2,235 more pounds of payload capacity. So a nice little surprise for people that have the reservation. And yeah, you can expect us to have a well, not a full review, but the first drive experience of the vehicle next week. So that's going to be exciting. We did learn a little bit more too with the start of deliveries. We learned about the elusive home integration system that you need to have if you want to take advantage of the vehicle to own capacity of the Lightning. So it's something that we talked about last month when they revealed the Pro Charger. Is that what you call it? The Ford Charge Station Pro, which is their bidirectional home charging station, which we were kind of impressed by the pricing of it when it was announced last month at $1,310, which sounds like a lot for a home charging station, but for an 80 amp charging station with bidirectional charging, it's kind of cheap. However, now we have to. They did say at the time that it's combined with the home charger, with the home integration kit that they call it, home integration system. So that we didn't have a price, and we expected that it was going to be significant. So even though the charger is technically bidirectional, the bidirectional capacity of it is not useful unless you buy this home integration system, which we now learn costs $3,900, basically $4,000 before installation. So for sure, more than $4,000 with installation. But we did learn from Matthew Stover, the director of charging, that it does consist of like a little bit more than just making it work. Like there's your own battery system is in there, along with unsurprisingly some power electronics like an inverter. They didn't say how much of a capacity you have for a battery. Uh, Also, I'm not sure why do you even need a battery, because like the whole goal is to use the battery in your
Right.
truck. So I don't know how like.
I guess if you're not home when the power goes out.
Yeah, I get so it's to have a system that works by itself, and then that you can complement uh with your truck if you need to, like for an extended period of time. Like maybe it's good enough for, but like if you have a small battery, often you also have a small power capacity out of it, because that's the thing. Like people were upset that I compared it to just a single power wall. Like they're like, yeah, a single power wall is 13.5 kilowatt hour. Like you're not um you not get as you use way more energy in the F-150 Lightning. Yes, but the F-150 Lightning only has a power capacity of 9.6. Well, I say only. It's plenty for a house, or for not for a full house necessarily, but for in case of an outage, it's gonna power all your essentials for as a load. A single power wall has a peak output of also 9 kilowatts, so it's the same thing. It's just again the energy capacity is not that won't last as long. That's why you would need like a second one or something, or if you want to have a bigger load. So this home integration system would kind of take care of some of that capacity. And then if you like, all right, we're gonna it's let's say that the reason for the outage is a serious one, like a natural disaster or whatever, you can plug your truck into the home integration system, actually it would be plugged already into the Ford Station Pro charger, and then you can extend that the use of the home integration system. They say that it's only going to be installed through Sunrun too, which is the other partner for that. The If you go on the Sunrun website, they're just willing to take interest right now in the system. You cannot doesn't look like you can get an actual quote or an installation date or anything like that. And I'd be curious to see how much it's going to cost, because I would assume that's going to be quite expensive to install too. So now I'm at least I don't think it's hard to tell exactly, but a lot of people talked a lot about that feature of the F-150 Lightning, like, oh,
Yep.
this vehicle to home, like it as a big selling point. But to be honest, I don't know like how big of a game changer it is for most buyers. I would be very curious to see what would be the take rate on that, like for people that do buy an F-150 Lightning. Like, how do you think? How many people do you think are going to buy this home integration system in the Ford Station? Because it looks like it's going to be at least $6,000, just
Right.
best case scenario, about $6,000 to get it to work.
Well, here's another thing. Like a lot of people have generators at their homes right now, and they have a generator, in plug already built into their, electrical system. You could really just take the 240 volt out of the back of the Ford F-150 and make a plug and plug that in, and that's going to act just like a generator, and that outputs 9.6 kilowatts as well. So you kind of have the same thing as the generator plug if you already have a system like that.
It's just
So
not as elegant of a solution, really,
right, and it's not something that like will click on
automatically.
right when your power goes out. But for $5,000 and something that happens, once every couple of years, maybe it doesn't make sense to add that extra value, extra cost. Um, we'll see. I guess we'll find out how many people want that.
Yeah, and if you already have a Sunrun installation, a solar installation, then maybe it makes more sense. Maybe like the installation is a lot simpler in that case, because if you can combine the home battery system with solar, there's advantage there too. Yeah, I mean maybe as the electric utility market grows into the situation, how to use this load this there's two things. There's a controllable load capacity, and then there's the energy capacity that's in those vehicles. I think along just the controllable load itself, because if everyone has and Ford F-150 or other electric pickup trucks, this is starting to be a significant charge load that you have on the market, especially if people get this 80 amp home charger. Like this is starting to be a lot. Just the fact that if you have a system like that can communicate with electric utilities, and everyone can just let them know like when to charge and when not to charge, that would be a giant deal alone. As again, as the fleet grows, but then if you had that the controllable energy capacity of it, I just think that a lot of people are going to be a lot less willing to just to let the electric utility go into your vehicle's battery pack. That's a bigger ask, really.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Recurrent a little bit.
All right. This week, the Electrek Podcast is sponsored by Recurrent, battery reports for EV owners. With Recurrent, you can check the battery before buying a used EV, monitor your battery performance over your entire ownership with monthly insights, then command higher resale values with battery condition reports when it's time to trade in. Recurrent gives people confidence in EV batteries, whether they're a first-time buyer or a long-time EV owner. While legacy combustion engines have 2,000 parts, an electric motor has 24. The most important and expensive part of an EV is the battery, and it's literally a black box. Recurrent makes battery performance and expected range over time more transparent. Reports are free for individual owners, and Recurrent also has paid options available for car dealers to run bulk reports. You can sign up for your free report at recurrentauto.com or by hitting the link in the show notes. Thank you to Recurrent for sponsoring this week's podcast.
Yes, thank you, Recurrent. All right, we're gonna have a few news items to discuss in the next few minutes regarding Tesla. Woohoo. But then we're gonna go back to the comments after that. So if you have any comments, whether it's about the R1T, we can ask Seth directly since he's sitting in it, or any other EV news related stuff that happened this week, or subjects in general. We can put them in the comment section right now and then get to them in a few minutes. All right, this was an exclusive this week that Tesla is updating its compensation model for retail employees, so sales and deliveries employees. So they had kind of a roller coasters over the last few years. The retail employees at Tesla, going back to if you remember we're closing all the stores thing, we're going online only, and all that stuff, which was in fact also compensation reduction for them because they cut a lot of the bonuses back then when they did that related to the delivery quotas. But and that has been like a very like a situation where a lot of people didn't even know that Tesla employees are actually paid in commission or bonuses. It's not exactly like it is for um, the average dealership, which are obviously known to be extremely commission based, which make them a little bit more pushy sometimes. Though it's a case by case basis, obviously. Tesla doesn't have the exact same model. It used to have more significant commissions. Now it changed it over the last few years to delivery um, bonuses linked to delivery quotas per regions or per stores. And if they do hit their quotas, they would get a 25% bonus for that on their salaries, on their respective yearly salaries for that quarter. Whether it's and they would have the option to take in stocks or take in salary bump in cash. So 25% is significant, and historically they have been hitting it, so it's been part of their compensation really, because Tesla has had some aggressive delivery goals, but for the most part the company has been hitting new records every quarter basically. But now they're changing that to completely remove anything that has to do with delivery quotas, and instead they are gonna give an overall bump in salaries to all sales and delivery employees by 12.5%, which effectively really it's equivalent of if they would hit half of the quarters. So if they hit two quarters in a year, that would be the equivalent of the raise that they're getting at. And again, like I said, over the last few years, they've been hitting all quarters. So technically, it is compensation, overall compensation reduction for those employees. Is just that they sort of remove the stress of hitting the delivery quotas, I guess. Well, not even remove all the stress, but remove the stress related to hit the delivery quotas being tied to your salaries. That's really the effectively the what happened here. So I mean, depending on how you see it, sorry employees or not sorry employees, like, if you do like the change, but for the most part, I think people are gonna not be too happy with it since it's literally a salary reduction for most people. All right, Mol S and X, they got a new screen. Apparently, starting since the last week of April from production. That's what we're hearing based on what people are getting delivered right now. So there's still some vehicle delivered without it, but this center display here is now on a swivel that is motorized. So here you can see from the video here from Mr. Larry Lee at Tesla Frunk on Twitter. Forget you can see the hood getting up here, but that's an aftermarket modification that he's like promoting, that his company does. But here you can see it's a full motorized swivel for the center display. This is completely for the passenger's benefit, but you can also move it on the left side to face the driver a little bit more, so you can both get a better experience for the driver and really like basically dedicating the screen to the passenger if you want. So we know that Tesla is big on entertainment lately. In the last few years, they want to push a lot of video games inside their cars, a lot of streaming services. And currently, you cannot, if you're driving, you cannot watch anything on that screen, any video playback. But we assume that Tesla is moving towards that in the future, especially that now they have some competition on that front in Europe. Mercedes with the level 3 system, hands-free system, you can actually play video on that center display under certain conditions. So some of them is like are beating Tesla to that front. Now Tesla is being more careful because they're not big on the level 3. They want to skip to level 4. Even they've been talking about level 5, but not as much lately. So this is something to keep an eye on. But at least when part, you can give the experience to the passenger and have a better view of the screen now. All right, the CCS adapter, the elusive Tesla CCS1 adapter that we don't, for the love of God, we don't know why it's not in the US yet. But it is. It is if you want to jump through some hoops and making happen. But for some reason, it's only available in Korea right now, directly from Tesla. You can buy it from Tesla, but from Tesla Korea. And that has been the case since last year. And when they did that, Tesla said, "Oh, we're gonna launch that in North America soon." The word was soon. Hasn't been the case yet, and of course, there would be a significant market for it in North America, thanks to the rise of charging station like EVgo, like Electrify America, that some of them are becoming useful to Tesla owners. It would be if you have this little device, this tiny little device right here, the CCS1 adapter. And the news this week is that there seems to have been an update to it, or if it's not an update, it's a strange situation that happened because it has been spotted charging at over 200 kilowatts, 205 kilowatts for to be precise, at when it was at a 19% state of charge. So not even completely empty. 90% state of charge, 205. When Tesla first launched it on its Korea store last year, they were saying that it's only rated at 150 kilowatts. So then this is someone that bought the charger from Tesla from Korea and ported it in the US, tested it on an EVgo station in the US and got 205. So maybe Tesla released a software update after some testing. They are more confident about it and let it charge at a higher level. Does that mean that it's coming soon to the US? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. We really have no idea on this one. It's a very strange situation because there's definitely demand for it. So
Right.
Tesla might just not be able to produce enough for it. They know that's gonna be like, I wouldn't be surprised if 50,000 people order that thing once it's made available in the US, something like that. It is a useful device to have in your car when you're on a road trip. There's no doubt about it. Um, and for a lot of people, there's some station that makes sense. But now the other way around to is what a lot of people are asking for. So an adapter for people for non-Tesla owners to charge on supercharger network. I know that would have been useful for me last month on my road trip in the south. That would have made a big difference. So Tesla opening the superchargers to non-Tesla owners, which they have been talking about doing in North America also for a while, but there's no clear timeline either.
Yeah. Do you think like EVgo and Electrify America would buy adapters to like leave at a charging station so that
Yeah. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. Like there's 80% of the not maybe not anymore, but something like probably 70% of the entire EV fleet in the US is Tesla vehicles. So if you're in the business of charging electric vehicles, you want to address the biggest market possible. So it would make a ton of sense for them to do that. Of course, they would need to have a way to make it safe and not people that's stealing it, because they are valuable adapters.
right?
Tesla is selling them right now for the equivalent of $250 in Korea. We did link to a useful Reddit post in our article. You can, if you look on Electrek for the CCS1 adapter article, we have a link to a Reddit post that gives us basically a guide to how to order it. It's a shipping service that basically gives you a Korean address to ship it to, and then the people there, they know to forward it to another address in North America. So it's a useful guide to if you really need it right now. You don't want to wait for the official North American version, because it works. Like there's no in Korea, Tesla has the proprietary connectors, and it's a CCS1 standard, so it just works.
I wonder if Tesla will stop sending to that particular address when 600 people are ordering it from them.
Yeah, man, maybe that's what we need to do. Just a bunch of people just order. Well, at the same time, they wouldn't even know. They would just like, hey, people in Korea love that thing a lot because
Yeah,
they all ship them to
especially in this
Korea
one
still.
particular home.
Yeah.
They love this thing.
All right, let's jump into the comments. I think we have a few more about the R1T, and then if you have anything else too, you can ask us. We have some time.
All right. So Tyler Donho also asked about the AC and the radios. It's obviously not AC weather right now. You can tell it's pouring down rain here outside. So I didn't get to try that, but I did get to try the stereo. It sounds amazing. Whoops, I hit Siri. I didn't get. So I have. I think the AC is going to be fine. The radio is great. We talked about what update I was on, Manuel. Let's see, moving forward. Does it have double pane windows? We talked about that. Yes, they are double pane. So Manuel also asked, do you know if yours had the underbody protection? How much weight does it add? I don't think underbody protection would add too much weight, and I don't know if this one has that. Although I have been taking it through the mud, so we'll find out. Tanks to 35 says, question comparing R1T to competition. How does R1T navigation compare to Android Auto? I can tell you right now, in Brooklyn, you're going to want to stick with Android Auto or Google, or even probably Apple. I had a hard time getting out of Brooklyn. It had a very strange route for me to go, so I ended up just using my phone. Can it perform voice commands? Yes, it can. It actually uses Alexa for a lot of voice commands, which kind of weird, but Jeff Bezos and Amazon spent a lot of money investing in Rivian. That wasn't free money, I guess. Can you read or reply to messages or navigate to Starbucks via voice command? You cannot do the read reply to messages, which I love about CarPlay and Android Auto. It can navigate to a Starbucks via voice command. And I haven't tried that yet, but I know it can do that if I do try. I don't know how well it works. Autopilot, I didn't get to use much. It's pouring down rain here, and was coming back from Brooklyn. My understanding is, and I got to use it before in Colorado. It's more like traffic aware cruise control. It's not, it's not fully autopilot, and it only works on certain highway portions that have been mapped. So it's not as good, but when it is invocable, it does pretty well. You also need to have your hand on the wheel. It's not like GM's where you can have your hands down. And actually, I was surprised, Fred. I didn't tell you this, and it might be embargoed, but Blue Cruise in the Ford F-150 no longer requires your hand to be on the wheel, and it worked amazingly well. We were in high traffic, going like 70 miles per hour for like a half hour, and Blue Cruise was fine. No hands.
No, and
Uh,
it's because they have a camera in there that's looking at you, though, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
because I didn't have that on the Mustang Mach-E. Like
Yep.
I kept getting the alert, and also like the Mach-E has the same thing as Tesla. I don't know like what kind of sensor they have on the steering wheel, but they don't actually detect if your hands on the wheel or not. You have to also apply some pressure.
Yep. All right. Farfolomo asks, will the love of pickup decrease over the next few years because of battery manufacturing concerns? It's much easier to produce small packs for sedan-like cars like Tesla's Model 3. I would say it's much cheaper to produce small packs. And as far as will the love of pickup decrease, has the price of gas made the love of pickups decrease? Maybe, but I don't think that much. What do you think, Fred?
I mean, I do think we're gonna start seeing a much higher premium on, well, and we're already seeing that on a higher energy density battery pack, a bigger battery pack. We've seen on the F-150, they charge you a pretty penny if you want to get from the standard battery pack to the extended range. We've seen, well, we're not seeing it perfectly with the Rivian because right now they're just producing one battery pack, but they did increase the price on the bigger battery pack that's going to be released to the third version of it. And I think we're going to see more and more of that because it makes sense to release to put electric cars with smaller battery pack on the road because that will cover more mileage overall than having with fewer batteries. It's as simple as that. Because most of the time you're carrying a big battery pack that you're not really using for that particular trip that you're doing because average trip is like 30 miles in the US. So if you can have more charging points and smaller battery pack, that would be the best solution, of course. Um, now, like said, like how does that really affect the buyers? Like the people are gonna still want the big trucks, and I just don't see like you still see it too much. I won't buy an electric car unless I have 600 miles of range on it. Like when do you drive 600 miles in a shot? And once every 3 years. All right, like, can you make that trip one every 3 years just a little bit longer, like adding one stop to it, and then
Right.
and is it worth it? That most people you would sit down and explain that to them, and they'll understand and they'll do it. But how does that affect your buying experience and what you're looking for in a truck? It's humans are weird creatures when it comes to that stuff. Like they want what they want. But I think there's no better incentive than economical incentive. So I think that the market is going to settle into this option of like, all right, you can have the smaller battery pack for a very good price. If you want the bigger battery pack, you can have it, and a lot of people are gonna want it, but you're gonna have to pay a bigger premium for it. I think that will make sense for most part. It's just for trucks, it's a bit different because a lot of people want to have the battery pack for not only the time that they drive longer distance, but the time that they have to carry big load. That's where things get a little bit more difficult, but I think the same model is going to apply to it.
All right. Tanks to 35 says, does R1T lower when parked to make it easier for short people to get in and out of the truck? I don't know that it does. You can lower it manually, or you can just drive in sport mode, which is low to begin with, which I think a lot of people are going to do. Like, unless you're going off road, there's really no reason, or doing towing. There's really no reason to be in off road mode or conserve mode or all purpose mode. Sports kind of where the fun is. And that's low or lowest. Um, Maybe though in a software update, Rivian will have something where it lowers it down. Um, it's certainly not as high as the F-150, so it's not like you're not like falling out of the vehicle, but yeah, that would be a benefit. Mike Keel from LinkedIn asks, what if Sunrun doesn't operate in your state? Do we know what Ford does there, Brian?
Yeah, I think that's like once we get there, kind of kind of issues. Like it's I would assume that they will work with other partners because I mean I don't know why Sunrun would need exclusivity on that. I'm sure they're gonna just enable other they're gonna certify other installers at some point. But I think that let's see what it looks like with Sunrun first, and then move on with the others.
Yeah.
Like I said,
All right.
I'm not sure like how big of a thing this is gonna get. Like I'm sure the F-150 Lightning is gonna be a giant success. This part of it, I just don't know it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a nice to have.
Yeah.
Like you want to be able to have that, but you don't necessarily want
Mm,
to spend $5,000 immediately
yeah.
and get that. All right, Manuel asked, "Did you see any R1S when you picked up the R1T?" And no, and we were looking, and we asked the guy there if there were any on site. He said no, but there are some being delivered now in other delivery centers.
Mm.
So the R1S have not started shipping to the East Coast, or at least to New York yet. We'll know soon, though, I'm sure. All right, Greg Poland says, comment, CCS in Texas is scarce. West and East Coast have many CCS chargers. I would like to get an Ionic 5, but I'm feeling range anxiety just thinking about driving it in Texas. The question is, will the CCS adapter work on my 2018 Model 3? That's
Well, the quick answer is no. There's something on the car hardware side that you need to have a small connector. And I think that Tesla started adding to the vehicles in late 2019 or early 2020, something like that. So no, 2018 wouldn't work. But apparently, it's a fairly small upgrade to get. So maybe that's one of the things that's slowing down the release of the CCS
yeah.
adapter in North America. Maybe Tesla is waiting for a retrofit program on that front, because even though Tesla is not big on retrofitting things, this one might be one of the easiest one to do. So they might do it for that, especially since like it's attached to a purchase anyway. So maybe Tesla can do a thing like order the $250 adapter, uh, $300 if you are 2019 model and older, and get that $50 thing installed at the same time. So something like that. So I would be surprised if Tesla doesn't let older Tesla vehicle work with the adapter too.
All right, Manuel asks, how are the cooled and heat seats? I didn't get to try them, but I would say the seats are pretty comfortable and they are vented as well. So I think great for long trips. And it's very similar to a Tesla in that you can set by driver your settings. So you'll get into the car and have the right seating arrangement for
Well,
yourself.
while we're on the seat set, let's talk about this a little bit, because I had a friend that like a lot of people have been reaching out to me lately, obviously, and I'm sure they have to you too, about getting electric vehicles since the gas prices are higher and everything. And I had a few people reach out to me. It's something that I didn't think about a lot, but for the wider EV adoption, it's going to be a big deal at some point, especially in the US. Is cars for bigger people. Like that's some of my bigger friends. They reached out to me and like, okay, I'm looking for an electric vehicle right now, and I run off all my usual recommendation, and they like I try all of those, and the seats are not comfortable for me because I'm a bigger guy. I'm like 6'3", 200 pounds, and everything. I'm talking about like really bigger people, and like the seats are not comfortable for me. After a while, if I sit in there, I start feeling the plastic side on them and everything. I'm like, I've never thought about that before. Like I literally run out of recommendation for them. So I was starting to think, okay, and I know one of the reasons why the pickup trucks are so popular in the US, it's not because everyone is a is a construction worker, is because obesity is a big deal in the US, and it is in Canada too, to be fair. I'm not just smashing on the US right now. But uh and pickup trucks are larger, the seats are larger, so they're more comfortable for bigger people. And so I was thinking, okay, maybe the R1T might be one to, even though it's on the more expensive side, we'd be one to recommend. So how do you feel about the seats itself, like and the space on it?
I'm usually easy to please with seats. Like I even like the Chevy Bolt seats, which everybody seemed to hate. But these feel very like roomy, very sturdy. I feel like I could ride around for a long time in them. I will say, like as far as leg room, I moved for the podcast. I moved the seat all the way back, and I can't even touch.
Yeah.
Like, even if I stretch out my legs, I can't even touch the gas. So I think 6'5" person. I'm almost 6 feet. So a 6'5" person would have no problem in here, and you can see the height. Like there's probably 6-7 inches between my head and the glass. So I don't think anybody with inside the normal bell curve would be. One of my neighbors is like 6'9" or something. So I'll give him a try in here and see how that goes.
All right. Same here in Texas. Okay, we're talking about CCS still.
Do I feel any improvement from the event in Colorado to today? Well, the big improvement for me was in the UI. Very responsive. There's been a lot of new features added. There's still some issues. Like there was a part earlier where a keyboard was supposed to come up and it didn't. I was in the manual and I was doing a search for trailer hitch stuff, and I was in the search part and there was no way to enter keys. So there's still little things like around the edges, nothing super consequential, but big improvement there. As far as hardware, it's hard for me to notice anything. This particular vehicle, I don't know if this is indicative of all of them, but this one is put together really well. It's super quiet. The door closes really, like my Tesla will go rattle a little bit. So I have to say, like, I'm pretty impressed with this thing, especially being from a new car company. I think they did their homework here. Moving on, Adam Wilcox, how many years until actual long-range towing camping with electric pickups is really viable? I mean, long range is subjective, but I think you could get pretty far with this thing. And then as far as camping goes, I think this is probably better than a internal combustion pickup truck.
Yeah, I think with the Rivian and the longer range version of the F-150 Lightning, it's what we're starting to see happening right now. Like you said, depending on what you mean by longer range, but if you can get if you can travel 200 miles in a day with a trailer with a camper in the back, this opens up nice opportunities to go on road trips and whatnot. Like I know it's not ideal just yet, but it's starting to towards that direction for sure.
Yeah. So on the F-150, we were towing a Airstream, great for camping, and we were getting close to 2 miles per kilowatt. So that's 133 kilowatt hour battery pack. So close to 260 miles with that thing. That would be pretty good. Airstreams are obviously very aerodynamic, but that was pretty impressive. And we weren't on the highway; we were driving on like backcountry roads, but that's pretty good. I think the aerodynamics of these electric pickups are kind of coming in handy there. Another question: when do you think Tesla's referral program will be back in Germany? Thank you guys for this great podcast. It's from Patricio Brennan.
Thank you, Patricio. Yeah, I mean, I don't know in Germany particularly. I mean, if Tesla brings it back, I think it's going to be more of a global thing, like it mostly has been for the referral program. And I mean, when they need it, that's the answer, really, which is not anytime soon. Um, I don't think you're going to see maybe once Berlin, once Texas, and full production. Then maybe it's going to start making some sense for Tesla to start going back to the well a little bit. So the radio works on the R1T. So yeah, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Maybe by the end of next year we could start Tesla putting again some incentive back into trying to create a backlog.
Sorry about that noise. I
Mm.
was reading ahead to besides Spotify, are there any other apps? So I popped in. Right now, it's just tune in Spotify for the music, but there's plenty of content on those two things. Again, sorry about that music. Um, F. Phillips says, "Will Rivian become a major player in the EV market or meet the fate of DeLorean?" Um, I think that probably depends on how well they're able to execute and do what they're trying to do. I mean, from a commodity standpoint, Ford is definitely going to have an advantage on pickups, but Rivian is kind of positioning itself as the adventure company. And, they sold me, for me, the smaller size, but all the cool stuff about it made it more appealing than a monstrous size Ford or a GMC Hummer, which is out of my price range, or the upcoming Chevy Silverado. So I think Rivian is winning there as long as they can continue to increase their output. They'll be in good shape, but they have to execute on all that stuff.
Yeah, they have a great product. So like the product is undeniably like well liked by anyone who tried it. People are taking deliveries already. So once you have that, like you're already a big part of the way there. Now you have to sell them with a positive gross margin, and you have to be able to ramp up production. So those are the difficult things that Rivian has to achieve right now. It looks like it's on its way there. So I don't think we can compare to DeLorean just yet, which is apparently coming back to. So
Right, DeLorean's not gone yet, right?
the
Adam,
25th, is it the 25th? There's gonna be an event for the DeLorean, I think.
yeah, those doors look pretty cool.
Mhm.
Adam Wilcox asks, "Are the cameras higher frame rate now?" That I don't know. I need to
Was
look.
that a problem on the
Yeah,
whole one?
yeah, they were low frame rate and kind of low resolution
Mhm.
before. I don't think they can change the resolution, but
Mhm.
they might be able to change the frame rate. It wasn't a problem, but I think people were using them to like navigate over hills, and
Mhm.
it wasn't quite as nice as they had hoped. And then the final question at the moment, Manuel says, "How's the sound system since you brought up the radio?" Well,
Mhm.
you heard it. It's pretty loud. I think it's great. I'm not like an audiophile. I don't think my ears are really tuned for it, but it sounds fantastic. We were coming up from Brooklyn, jamming out to different music. It all sounded great, so I think it's good.
All right. Well, we're all looking forward to your full review coming up in the next week or so. In the meantime, thanks a lot for everyone for listening. If you do enjoy the show, please give us a thumbs up. We appreciate it. If you're listening on a podcast app, a 5-star review would be much appreciated. That helps the show more than you can think. And it's free to do. And we're gonna see you same time, same place next week. Have a good one. Bye bye.